What happens when Hollywood's biggest legends turn into its greatest nightmares? You've seen their movies, admired their talent, maybe even idolized them in your younger days. But what if I told you some of old Hollywood's greatest stars hid dangerous secrets behind their glittering smiles? We're talking wild scandals, destructive addictions, explosive tempers, and crimes studios desperately tried to bury. One beloved star secretly faced murder accusations. Another's chaotic life ended in one of Hollywood's greatest unsolved mysteries. But can you guess who they are? Before we dive in, I want you to think of 3 old Hollywood stars you believe made this list and comment their names below. Stick around, because I bet you'll be surprised how many you get right. Today, we're counting down the 20 most dangerous old Hollywood actors who were out of control. And trust me, by the time we reach number 1, you'll never see Hollywood's golden age the same way again. Number 20, Humphrey Bogart, Hollywood's untouchable tough guy. Now, you remember Humphrey Bogart, tough, rugged, with that trademark fedora tilted just so. He was the king of cool, the actor who defined masculinity for generations of men just like you and me. But here's something you might not know. Bogey wasn't just tough on screen, he was even tougher off camera, and sometimes dangerously so. Behind the scenes, Bogart's legendary drinking turned him into a ticking time bomb. You might recall he loved his whiskey neat, but his fondness for alcohol wasn't just a charming quirk. It fueled confrontations and sometimes violent clashes with directors and co-stars alike. On more than one occasion, Bogart squared off with fellow actors, famously feuding with everyone from movie executives to Hollywood royalty like Errol Flynn. His co-stars learned quickly never to challenge him after a few drinks. Even Lauren Bacall, his great love, couldn't always calm him down. He was known for trashing dressing rooms, slamming doors so hard they'd crack, and intimidating directors who dared criticize his performance. And yet, here's the ironic twist. Bogey's tough guy persona was exactly what audiences adored. Studios knew it, and that's why they tolerated his chaos, even if it meant cleaning up his messes time and time again. But Bogart was just the beginning, because our next actor at number 19 was younger, faster, and pushed the limits of danger even further. Number 19, James Dean, racing toward disaster. Ah, James Dean. The name alone probably brings back memories, doesn't it? He was the ultimate rebel, the symbol of restless youth in your younger days. But let me tell you folks, this kid wasn't acting. He lived every bit as dangerously as the characters he portrayed. Dean's love for speed wasn't just a hobby, it was an obsession. He raced motorcycles down Sunset Boulevard, laughing off police warnings and studio threats like they were mere suggestions. Friends worried about him, urging him to slow down, but Dean, with that cocky grin, famously replied, "Live fast, die young, and leave a good-looking corpse." I bet some of you remember hearing that line back when it first made the rounds. Little did we know how true it would become. In September 1955, at just 24 years old, James Dean crashed his Porsche on a California highway, ending his life instantly and shocking the world. But his death wasn't the end of the story. Strange whispers about cursed cars, hidden affairs, and secret Hollywood relationships followed him to the grave, fueling the myth that still surrounds him today. Dean lived fast, left too soon, and became immortal because of it. But while James Dean's life ended tragically young, our next Hollywood troublemaker at number 18 lived long enough to wreak havoc on Tinseltown for decades, leaving a trail of broken hearts and shattered careers in his wake. Number 18, Tony Curtis, Hollywood's playboy torn apart. Now, folks, if you grew up watching Tony Curtis, you probably remember him as the charming heartthrob who lit up the silver screen. He had that irresistible charm, didn't he? Women wanted him, men admired him, and Hollywood couldn't get enough. But Tony's real life wasn't quite so glamorous. He was living dangerously on the edge, and it cost him dearly. Curtis wasn't shy about his conquests. He once bragged openly about bedding countless starlets, including, famously, Marilyn Monroe herself. But his appetite wasn't limited to romance alone. Behind closed doors, he was battling severe addictions, diving headfirst into cocaine and heroin throughout the 1970s. He once joked, "If you remember the 70s, you weren't really there." But the laughter hid deep, personal pain. As his addiction grew, Tony burned bridges in Hollywood faster than studios could rebuild them. Directors became enemies. Producers refused to take his calls. And at home, things weren't much better. Curtis was married 6 times and fathered 6 children, but his family life became a battlefield. You might remember his daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis. She's spoken openly about the wounds her famous father left behind. Toward the end of his life, Tony admitted with heartbreaking clarity that he had turned his own life into a circus, one he no longer knew how to manage. But if you think Curtis lived dangerously, wait until you hear about the star at number 17. He was Hollywood royalty, whose alcohol-fueled chaos destroyed one of the greatest legacies ever built. Number 17, John Barrymore, Shakespeare's fallen idol. You remember John Barrymore, don't you? They called him the Great Profile, with a voice that could command stages from coast to coast. But behind those electrifying performances, Barrymore lived a life of utter self-destruction. Hollywood royalty by birth, he had everything handed to him. Talent, charisma, fame, and yet somehow it was never enough. Barrymore didn't just drink socially, he turned it into an art form, spiraling from glamorous cocktail parties into blackout binges. Soon, he wasn't acting drunk, he simply was drunk. Stumbling onto sets, forgetting his lines, or not even showing up at all. The studios tolerated his antics for a while, because the Barrymore name still meant box office gold. But you and I both know Hollywood's patience has limits. As he sank deeper into the bottle, Barrymore became the tragic punchline of Hollywood society. Friends watched helplessly as he squandered his fortune, alienated loved ones, and sabotaged his legacy. By the end, the once great Shakespearean actor died virtually penniless, a shadow of the brilliant man audiences had adored. Yet, Barrymore's public fall was nothing compared to the explosive, scandalous case coming up at number 16. A scandal so severe, it nearly destroyed Hollywood itself. Number 16, Fatty Arbuckle, the scandal that rocked America. If you remember silent films, then Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle needs no introduction. He was comedy royalty, a big man with an even bigger personality. But in 1921, Arbuckle's laughter turned to tears, and Hollywood faced its first truly explosive scandal. At a wild hotel party in San Francisco, a young actress named Virginia Rapp tragically died, and Arbuckle was accused of causing her death. Overnight, Fatty went from beloved clown to public enemy number 1. Newspapers branded him a monster, church groups rallied against him, and studios panicked as theaters across the country boycotted his films. Arbuckle faced 3 sensational trials before being cleared of all charges, but the damage was irreversible. Hollywood blacklisted him, and despite desperate attempts at a comeback, Arbuckle died broken and alone. His story, more than any other, showed the world that beneath Hollywood's glittering surface lay darker secrets waiting to explode. But speaking of explosive secrets, our next actor at number 15 kept a darkness hidden behind his perfect gentlemanly facade, a secret that would shock America years later. Number 15, Spencer Tracy, Hollywood's tortured gentleman. Spencer Tracy, solid, dependable, and dignified on screen, wasn't he? But behind that calm facade lay a deeply troubled man wrestling with personal demons that haunted him his entire life. Tracy was one of those actor studios desperately protected because, simply put, he was box office gold. But Spencer had an alcohol addiction so severe it turned him into a ticking time bomb. Behind closed doors, he lived in constant torment, torn between his devout Catholic beliefs and his passionate love affair with Katharine Hepburn, an affair that Hollywood worked tirelessly to keep quiet. Tracy's drinking turned him into a completely different man, explosive, angry, and unpredictable. He'd disappear for days on drunken binges, returning disheveled and unrecognizable. Directors learned to handle him carefully, And even Hepburn herself often stepped in to shield Tracy from Hollywood's glare. But the pain inside him never subsided, and he battled those demons right up to his death in 1967. Yet, Spencer Tracy's turmoil was still mild compared to the ruthless scandal surrounding the man at number 14, a king of Hollywood whose charming smile concealed a truly dark and unforgivable act. Number 14, Clark Gable, the king's darkest secret. Clark Gable was Hollywood's undisputed king, handsome, charming, and admired by millions, including many of you watching right now. But beneath that perfect smile was a darker reality Hollywood kept buried for decades. In 1935, during filming of The Call of the Wild, actress Loretta Young accused Gable of assaulting her, resulting in a pregnancy that threatened both their careers. Terrified of scandal, the studio orchestrated one of the most elaborate cover-ups in Hollywood history. Young disappeared from public life temporarily, gave birth in secret, and later adopted her own child, all under Hollywood's strict supervision. Gable went on as if nothing had happened, protected by MGM's powerful publicity machine. And folks, that's how it worked in old Hollywood. Powerful men shielded from consequence, protected by money, charm, and influence. Gable maintained his golden image, becoming Rhett Butler and remaining the idol of millions, never publicly answering for his actions. But if Gable's secret was explosive, the chaos surrounding our next star at number 13 burned even brighter. A brilliant talent whose self-destructive behavior shocked everyone who knew him. Number 13, Montgomery Clift, Hollywood's haunted rebel. The brooding eyes, sensitive smile, and performances that seemed to pierce right into your soul. But beneath those sensitive roles hid a man tormented by secrets and self-destruction. Monty Clift was his own worst enemy, folks, and Hollywood watched helplessly as he unraveled. In the mid-1950s, Clift was already spiraling, struggling privately with his sexuality at a time when Hollywood refused to acknowledge it. He turned to pills and alcohol for comfort, but the more he numbed himself, the more chaotic his life became. Then came the night of his terrible car accident in 1956, a crash that left his famously handsome face permanently scarred and plunged him even deeper into darkness. Monty never recovered emotionally, sinking further into depression and substance abuse. Elizabeth Taylor, his closest friend, fought desperately to save him, but Monty was beyond rescue. He eventually died at just 45, a tragic end to a man whose sensitive brilliance masked a lifelong battle with self-destruction. Yet, even Clift's troubled life was overshadowed by the reckless chaos of the Hollywood legend we have at number 12. Someone whose defiance nearly cost him his career multiple times, yet made him one of your favorite rebels. Number 12, Steve McQueen, King of Reckless Cool. Steve McQueen wasn't just an actor, he was your generation's symbol of cool, a rebel who lived every moment on the edge. He raced cars, rode motorcycles, and didn't care who he offended. But let me remind you, friends, the Steve McQueen you saw on screen was nothing compared to the wild, uncontrollable force Hollywood had to manage off camera. McQueen defied studios, clashed violently with directors, and even got into physical confrontations with co-stars. He thrived on pushing the limits of speed and danger, once telling producers, "You can't tame me, so don't even try." His recklessness was legendary, from driving drunk to pulling stunts so risky that insurance companies refused to cover him. But despite his dangerous lifestyle, Hollywood kept coming back to him because, frankly, folks, nobody else was Steve McQueen. They couldn't replace his charisma or his charm. He was too valuable, even when he was uncontrollable. And while Steve's recklessness defined his image, the Hollywood star at number 11 brought chaos to an entirely new level, destroying marriages, friendships, and even studios along the way. Number 11, Richard Burton. Love, liquor, and absolute chaos. Richard Burton. His name alone conjures images of glamour, power, and scandal. He was a titan of the stage and screen. And when paired with Elizabeth Taylor, Hollywood had never seen a couple so beautiful, yet so dangerously volatile. Their relationship was fueled by alcohol, passion, and bitter fights that could erupt anywhere, even on set, causing productions to halt as Burton's legendary temper exploded. Friends described Richard's drinking as an uncontrollable storm. At its worst, he would lash out violently at paparazzi, insult co-stars, and publicly humiliate directors who dared criticize his behavior. Hollywood tolerated Burton because his talent was unmatched, but his destructive ways eventually alienated nearly everyone close to him. His roller coaster marriage to Taylor ended twice, leaving both emotionally battered. Burton died at just 58, leaving behind a legacy defined as much by his off-screen chaos as by his cinematic genius. Yet, even Richard Burton's volatility pales next to our next actor at number 10, a legend who turned Hollywood upside down with his wild partying and reckless disregard for authority. Number 10, Dennis Hopper, Hollywood's wildest ride. Dennis Hopper wasn't just unpredictable, he was downright dangerous, from Easy Rider to Apocalypse. Now, Hopper defined a generation's rebellious spirit. But behind those groundbreaking films was a man whose life spun violently out of control. Dennis embraced drugs like few others before or since. Cocaine, heroin, LSD, you name it. Dennis did it, often publicly and unapologetically. His addictions fueled erratic behavior, including famously pulling a loaded gun on director Francis Ford Coppola during filming. He terrorized producers, clashed brutally with co-stars, and was temporarily blacklisted by Hollywood as unmanageable. Yet you probably remember that Hopper had charisma and talent to spare, and somehow studios kept giving him second chances, perhaps because audiences loved the thrill of never knowing what he'd do next. Hopper eventually sobered up later in life, but his chaotic years remain Hollywood legend, a warning of how far one man could push fame before it pushed back. But if you thought Dennis Hopper was wild, wait until you hear about number 9, a Hollywood idol whose secret life was so shocking, it forced an entire nation to face truths it wasn't ready to accept. Number 9, Rock Hudson, the secret that changed Hollywood. Now, you and I grew up watching Rock Hudson, the perfect Hollywood heartthrob, the leading man every woman dreamed about and every man admired. But Hollywood's golden boy had a secret so big, it would eventually change how America talked about fame, sexuality, and disease forever. Hudson was living a double life at a time when being openly gay could destroy careers and lives. Studios fabricated romances, marriages, and headlines to protect his clean-cut image. You remember all those glamorous premieres and magazine spreads, right? Well, behind every smile was a terrified man living a lie. Then, in 1985, the truth exploded. Hudson became one of the first major celebrities diagnosed with AIDS. You recall how stunned we all were, watching him on television, frail and fading. His illness wasn't just a personal tragedy, it forced the entire country to confront uncomfortable truths. Hudson's death, later that year, shattered Hollywood's facade of perfection, exposing its darkest secrets to the world. Yet even Hudson's heartbreaking revelation seems tame compared to the next actor at number 8, a man whose wild antics and reckless abandon made even Hollywood's toughest stars nervous. Number 8, Robert Mitchum, Hollywood's unrepentant rebel. Robert Mitchum, now there was a guy who never bothered pretending to play nice. You probably remember him best as the laid-back outlaw with those sleepy eyes and effortless cool. Mitchum didn't just portray rebels, he lived it, openly defying studios, directors, and even the law. In 1948, Mitchum made headlines when he was arrested at a Hollywood party for marijuana possession, an offense serious enough back then to end a career. But Mitchum simply shrugged it off. "It's just like getting caught holding a beer," he famously said. Hollywood panicked, but Mitchum didn't care. He turned scandal into legend, becoming even more popular afterward. His troublemaking didn't stop there either. Mitchum fought openly with directors, drank excessively, and even got into bar brawls around Hollywood. Yet, studios could never fully control him, because, honestly, Mitchum's recklessness was exactly why people like us loved watching him. But if Mitchum was fearless, wait until you hear about the Hollywood legend at number 7, a man whose private life of spying, scandals, and courtroom drama would become a cautionary tale you and I both remember clearly. Number 7. Errol Flynn, Hollywood's most dangerous heartthrob. Oh, Errol Flynn. He defined swashbuckling charm in the movies, didn't he? Women swooned over his dashing smile, and men admired his daring bravado. But Flynn wasn't just a rogue on the screen. His real-life adventures were far more dangerous and far darker than any pirate he portrayed. Flynn's reputation as Hollywood's bad boy was well-earned. His mansion famously featured hidden peepholes and mirrors, so he could spy on his guests, a revelation that shocked even cynical Hollywood insiders. In 1942, Flynn faced a high-profile trial, accused by 2 teenage girls of statutory misconduct. Though he was acquitted, the scandal stained his image forever, and if that wasn't enough, whispers of espionage followed him during World War II, with suspicions he'd secretly sympathized with the Nazis. Though nothing was proven, it was clear that wherever trouble went, Flynn was never far behind. He died young at just 50, his health wrecked by excesses and scandals. Yet, Errol Flynn's dangerous antics were still overshadowed by our next actor at number 6, a man whose life was a series of wild, turbulent disasters you witnessed firsthand in the headlines. Number 6, Mickey Rooney, Hollywood's original wild child. You and I both saw Mickey Rooney grow up right before our eyes, didn't we? From the Andy Hardy films to MGM musicals, Mickey Rooney was America's biggest child star, beloved by millions. But fame that big comes at a high cost, and Rooney paid dearly. His life was a constant storm of reckless decisions, impulsive marriages, and financial disasters. Rooney married 8 times. Yes, 8. Often with disastrous consequences. His compulsive gambling drained his fortune repeatedly, leaving him in massive debt to casinos and shady characters alike. But the chaos didn't end there. In his later years, Mickey accused his own family of exploiting him financially and emotionally, becoming Hollywood's tragic example of how fame can destroy as easily as it creates. Rooney died nearly broke, a stark reminder of Hollywood's dark side, one we all saw play out painfully in real time. Yet, Rooney's tragic tale seems tame compared to the shocking secret life of our next star at number 5, a man who Hollywood manufactured and controlled, hiding a truth that would have ruined his career instantly. Number 5, Tab Hunter, Hollywood's manufactured heartthrob. Tab Hunter was the quintessential 1950s star, blonde, handsome, and as all-American as apple pie. But behind that carefully crafted image was a man trapped by Hollywood's unforgiving system. Tab Hunter was gay in an era when admitting that publicly would have destroyed him. The studio machine built an elaborate illusion around him. Fake dates, staged romances, and manufactured scandals to distract from his real life became the norm. Hunter once said, "I couldn't be myself. I lived every day terrified of exposure." And when police raided a private party he attended, the studios frantically worked to erase all evidence. Eventually, Hunter found the courage to speak his truth decades later. But his early life was one of silent desperation, a prisoner to a Hollywood image he could never escape. And if you think Tab Hunter's story was heartbreaking, just wait until you hear about the star at number 4, a Hollywood titan whose uncontrollable nature left emotional and physical destruction wherever he went. Number 4, Marlon Brando, Hollywood's explosive genius. Marlon Brando. Now there's a name that brings back vivid memories, right? From A Streetcar Named Desire to The Godfather, Brando wasn't just an actor, he was a force of nature. But as many of you might remember, behind his incredible talent lay a man whose personal life was dangerously volatile. Brando had an intense, unpredictable personality that studios struggled to handle. His tantrums on set were legendary, often turning physical or spiraling into shouting matches. He openly defied Hollywood's elite, famously rejecting his Oscar in protest, shocking the entire industry. And then there were the countless romantic affairs, marriages, and scandals that seemed to follow him everywhere. Tragedy also haunted Brando's personal life. You might recall when his son, Christian, was convicted of killing his sister's boyfriend. a devastating event Brando never truly recovered from. His daughter later took her own life, compounding his heartbreak. By the end, Brando's legacy was a complex mixture of breathtaking performances and chaotic personal turmoil, remembered vividly by those of us who saw it unfold firsthand. Yet even Brando's destructive life pales next to the mysterious circumstances surrounding our next star at number 3, a hero whose tragic ending you all surely remember. Number 3, George Reeves, the fatal mystery of Superman. Remember George Reeves? He was the first Superman you ever knew, the man who embodied truth and justice every week on your TV screens. But Reeves' real-life story ended in a mystery more sinister than anything Hollywood could script. In June of 1959, Reeves was found dead in his home from a gunshot wound. Officially ruled a suicide, the circumstances left more questions than answers. Guests downstairs at the time heard the shot, but found a scene suspiciously clean. No fingerprints, no powder burns, nothing added up. You might recall the whispers back then, his messy affair with Toni Mannix, wife of a powerful MGM executive linked to the MOB. Some believed Reeves was silenced after he tried to break off the dangerous relationship. Even decades later, no one knows exactly what happened, leaving the man who once saved millions on TV tragically unsaved himself. But speaking of tragic falls, our actor at number 2 endured a roller coaster of fame, fortune, and chaos that would haunt Hollywood forever. Number 2, Judy Garland, Hollywood's saddest star. You grew up watching Judy Garland become a legend, the little girl skipping down the yellow brick road, singing songs that warmed our hearts. But Judy's life off camera was a heartbreaking saga of abuse, addiction, and self-destruction that Hollywood desperately tried to hide. Garland was fed drugs by studio bosses to control her weight, mood, and performance from a young age, a cruelty that set her on a lifelong battle with pills and alcohol. Her attempts to escape resulted in multiple marriages, public meltdowns, and financial ruin. You probably remember the shocking headlines when her struggles went public, garnering pity but also scandalizing the public who adored her. By the end, Judy Garland was a broken star, exploited, forgotten by Hollywood, and facing massive debts. She died tragically at just 47, becoming Hollywood's ultimate cautionary tale about the cruel price of fame. But Judy's heartbreaking story isn't the final chapter, because the man at number 1 on our countdown became Hollywood's most feared and dangerous figure, whose chaos nearly took down everyone around him. Number 1, Warren Beatty, Hollywood's untamable legend. Warren Beatty. Just hearing that name brings you back to a time when Hollywood belonged to charismatic rebels. Handsome, brilliant, and notoriously uncontrollable, Beatty ruled Hollywood through charm, manipulation, and an obsession with power. His legendary romantic escapades are part of Hollywood folklore, rumored to involve thousands of lovers, including co-stars, starlets, and even political figures. But Beatty wasn't just dangerous romantically. He was a master manipulator on set, clashing fiercely with directors, studios, and anyone who opposed him. Warren Beatty didn't follow Hollywood's rules. He made his own, shutting down productions on a whim and wielding his influence ruthlessly. Hollywood tolerated him because, frankly, he was Warren Beatty, the star who could guarantee success no matter the chaos he caused. Yet, his later life provided a twist no one saw coming, settling down with Annette Bening, leaving behind the chaos that defined him for decades. But no matter how tame his final chapter might seem, the Warren Beatty you and I remember was Hollywood's ultimate dangerous star, a force so powerful and so uncontrollable, even Hollywood itself couldn't contain him. Hollywood's hidden price. And there you have it, the 20 old Hollywood legends whose wild lives shocked the world and left scars that even time can't erase. But I want to know, do you agree with our list? Or did we miss someone you thought would definitely make it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed uncovering Hollywood's darkest secrets, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more coming that you won't want to miss.